forgot and never brought to mind. Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne?
After surviving 1954, Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi and his friend Eugenio Pacelli found themselves on a countdown to ruin. Eugenio, Pope Pius XII, has made it through his most dramatic health crisis. Not thanks to the man who is still, at least formally, his personal physician, Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi, nor to Riccardo's rival, the enigmatic Swiss doctor Paul Niens. He injected the Pope with animal cells, hoping they would somehow regenerate him like magic. But according to the Italian weekly, L'Europaio,
he would later claim that he saved the pontiff with a potato broth.
In truth, Eugenio was saved by traditional doctors, brought in for the occasion. Professor Gasparini, Professor Paolucci, Professor Corelli. Both the official archiator, Riccardo, and the unofficial one, Niens, were left out of the treatment during the most critical phase. And yet, Eugenio is a man who remains loyal and grateful to his friends. Friday, March 11th, 1955. Sir Alexander Fleming dies in London.
I certainly didn't plan to revolutionize all medicine by discovering the world's first antibiotic or bacteria killer, but I suppose that was exactly what I did.
In addition to being a Nobel Prize laureate and a recipient of the French Legion of Honor, Sir Fleming is also an honorary member of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. His seat, the 48th, is now vacant, and Pope Eugenio Pacelli bestows it upon Paul Niens. The very same high honor that Eugenio had granted to Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi in December 1949, back when Riccardo was still dear to him, and Eugenio saw him as one of the greatest medical minds of all time. It feels less like recognition and more like replacement. Riccardo, who holds Niens in no esteem and accuses him of harming Eugenio, can only take it as a personal affront. Until 1958, Eugenio continues to pursue his project of Christianizing society. He writes and delivers hundreds of speeches, letters, and radio messages on nearly every subject and for every kind of audience. From school teachers to grenadiers, from motorcyclists to oilmen, from pasta makers to lawmakers, from fiberboard manufacturers to milkmen, and 11 encyclicals issued between 1955 and 1958. It's a deluge of speeches and statements. But it's also a sign that the broader vision is breaking down into increasingly marginal and pedantic issues. Modernity is advancing. Eugenio's dream of a Catholic civilization is fading. Even Italy's Catholic Party, against the Pope's wishes, is shifting steadily to the left, edging toward cooperation with the Socialist Party. October 1958. Eugenio Pacelli is 82, and once again gravely ill, just as he was 4 years earlier. The inhuman hiccup returns. The spasms return. And at the papal summer residence in Castel Gandolfo, where Eugenio has been confined since the summer, the doctors return as well. Gasparini, Corelli, On October 5th, someone announces that Riccardo is coming back too. The weekly magazine L'Orapio reports,
Pius XII gestured with his hand and said,
"Let him come."
Sister Pasqualina disagreed.
His Holiness is too kind. He often turns a blind eye, or even both eyes. But there is a limit.
October 6th. To the doctor feeling his pulse, he says,
"Rally? I can't see a thing."
Corelli recognizes signs of ischemia. Shortly after, Eugenio falls into a coma. Father Hendrik, one of the librarians at Castel Gandolfo, administers the last rites to Eugenio. The first medical bulletins are issued to the press.
This morning he suffered a stroke. The Vatican has not made known exactly where the Pope was or what he was doing when he was stricken. He is an early riser, so it is presumed that at 8:30 a.m. he was already at work in his study. It is known that he was immediately assisted by his household, and especially by Sister Pasqualina Leinert, a devoted German nun who has been his housekeeper for many years. Members of his household staff took him not to his usual bedroom, but to a room overlooking the lake. They summoned Professor Galeazzi-Lisi from Rome, and he, in turn, called in the specialists who signed the bulletins.
Let Riccardo himself, in the words of his autobiography, recount these dramatic moments.
The clouds were gathering over this fearless fighter. My God, I thought in anguish. Don't let the Holy Father be paralyzed. It's something that must not happen to him who lives only for his work and his triumphant audiences. It would be a disaster. I know he would rather die.
At 5:30, Eugenio regains consciousness.
My heart filled with hope. The Pope murmured his first words.
"What happened? What's happened?"
I spent the night at the foot of his bed.
By now, Riccardo is like a figure from a Johann Fuseli painting. Shrouded in darkness, looming over the bed of his sleeping friend, all through the night. The next morning, Pius XII is feeling better. He says,
"I asked the Lord to grant me a day to prepare myself."
The Pope opens his eyes. He's awake. The doctors speak to him. Riccardo is there. So is Nehans. They ask him to stay alone. No visits, no work. He listens, nods, and begins to pray again. Now and then, his low voice murmurs a prayer he loves.
Soul of Christ, sanctify me. Body of Christ, save me. Blood of Christ, inebriate me. Water from the side of Christ, wash me. Passion of Christ, strengthen me. Oh, Jesus, hear me.
Someone asks whether he'd like to listen to some music. He says yes. His favorite composers are four: Handel, Beethoven, Mendelssohn, and Wagner. Above all, Richard Wagner. Afterward, he prays the rosary. The nuns line up. One by one, they kiss his hand. One of them opens the window. The air comes in. Eugenio looks outside.
Look at the sky. How beautiful it is. And how great the good Lord is.
While Eugenio gasps for breath in bed, someone is taking notes. The Pope is praying. Someone else picks up the receiver. Remember Bruno Bartoloni? Journalist, son of Giulio Bartoloni, also a journalist, who, for years, funded Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi in exchange for confidential updates on the Pope's health.
And the agreement was that any news concerning the Pope's health, he would call my father.
At the Bartoloni house, there's a black telephone. A direct line, private, coded, for Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi only. But on the phone, he never introduces himself as Riccardo. He goes by Giovanni, because any communication in the Vatican can be intercepted. Bruno Bartoloni has another story to tell, as true as it is unbelievable. And he told it to us for the last time, before he died.
One fine day, Galeazzi-Lisi calls the house. I'm the one who answers the phone, and he says,
"Tell your father to come to Castel Gandolfo right away."
So we go to Castel Gandolfo. And of course, there's no one there, because no one knew the Pope was ill. Except, maybe, the photographer Felici. He was the Pope's official photographer, and almost certainly being paid, in turn, by the Associated Press. The competition. We get to Castel Gandolfo and start watching the windows. Also because we didn't know what kind of signal Galeazzi-Lisi would use to let us know. So we're just standing there, like idiots, staring up at the windows. We see a curtain move, or something like that. Naturally, we couldn't announce that Pius XII was unwell based on such a trivial signal. So what happens? I tell my father, "Look, there's been a signal, but we don't know what it's about." So my father calls Max Berger at Agenzia Italia, just to say there had been a signal, but we weren't quite sure what it meant. The thing is, Anesi, who was the director of Agenzia Italia, was tuned in to Vatican Radio. And as soon as he hears the chimes of the bells announcing the live broadcast, because Vatican Radio didn't broadcast continuously, it would start with the sound of bells, and that meant the beginning of the transmission. As soon as Anesi hears the sound of the bells, he takes it as confirmation that the signal was a positive one. And so, at first, the Pope's death was announced. But the Pope hadn't died.
Recap. We know that Riccardo has a gambling problem. To cover his debts, he draws at least 2 salaries, one from an Italian news agency, the other from the New York Times. On October 7th, while Eugenio is in agony and believes he's living his final day to prepare for death, Riccardo calls Bartolone, the man of the Italian agency. He tells him to keep watch over Castel Gandolfo because the Pope is gravely ill. Bartolone's son goes to the site. Something stirs behind the curtains at Castel Gandolfo. A music box plays on Vatican radio. It sounds like the signal. The newspapers go to print. They write that the Pope has died. But the Pope hasn't died. He's still breathing. He's lying down. His eyes are closed. His skin is pale. His hands are limp. But he isn't dead. Never before or since has a pope been declared dead while still alive. The misunderstanding began with Riccardo. The newspaper machine did the rest.
After the announcement of the Pope's death, followed by the announcement that it wasn't true, the square outside Castel Gandolfo filled with journalists, and that's when the circus really began. Olive vendors, street hawkers, every kind of person imaginable. Every single journalist.
Below the windows, the crowd. Journalists with microphones, olive vendors, women with shopping bags. Everyone is waiting for the Pope to die. We've said it before, and it bears repeating. Riccardo was getting 2 paychecks. One came from Italy, the other from overseas, from the New York Times. In return, he provided insider news. The other side of this corruption is told by Paul Hoffman, a great Vatican reporter, though at the time he was little more than a rookie, assigned to the Rome Bureau of the Times. In his book, O Vatican, A Slightly Wicked View of the Holy See, he recalls that day.
In the palace of Castel Gandolfo, where the pontiff had lived since late summer, Dr. Galeazzi-Lisi felt even less free to use the telephone for personal business than in the Vatican. And he delivered his coded messages only when he briefly returned to his apartment in Rome for a change of clothes. It turned out we didn't really need his secret reports. The enterprising Jesuits who were operating Vatican radio had prevailed upon the papal bureaucracy in what amounted to an astonishing victory over curial secretiveness, and were broadcasting live from Castel Gandolfo. In the last hours of Pius XII's death struggle, listeners could hear the voice of one of his close aides, Monsignor Domenico Tardini, reciting the prayers for the dying at his bedside. I was struck by the Roman dialect flavor of the Monsignor's Latin.
October 8th, 1958. Eugenio wakes up. He says he feels unwell. He says it again. Then he closes his eyes and slips into a coma. It's the most important day. Father Hendrik recalls that while Eugenio was in a coma,
I sent away the photographer Felici, who had wanted to take pictures of the dying man. Keep in mind that, at that moment, the bedroom was full of movement. The 4 doctors were doing everything they could to help the patient. I was there, along with the sisters, Father Laber, and Monsignor Tardini.
Luigi Felici is a photographer. He wants to photograph the dying Pope. Like Riccardo, he has a contract with a news agency.
C'era Associated Press che certamente aveva un accordo con Felici.
The Associated Press certainly had an agreement with Felici.
Il fotografo Felici,
the photographer Felici, he was the Pope's official photographer, and almost certainly being paid, in turn, by the Associated Press.
It's a detail that might go unnoticed, but it matters a great deal. At the bedside of the dying Pope, there's a man with a camera. Not a relative, not an onlooker, but a professional. Someone who, like Riccardo, has a confidential agreement with a news agency. Someone who is working, right there, in that room. And then something happens that should never have happened. A shutter clicks. Eugenio Pacelli, in a coma, is photographed. Not posed. Not in pontifical robes. Not already laid out in his coffin. He's photographed as he is dying. It's a truly unique image, in both senses of the word. There's only one, and there's nothing else like it. The room is dark. The bed is metal. The headboard is polished. At the top, a chrome sphere. The body lies on its right side, the face turned upward. The eyes are closed. The eyelids sunken. The skin pale, no beard. Beneath the eye, a swollen vein. The nose is sharply defined. The head sinks into the pillow. The scalp appears shaved. No headdress, no symbols, no liturgical fabric, no cross. From the left, a tube enters the frame. Thin, rigid, curved. It touches the cheek, slips into the mouth, disappears between bloodless lips. The mouth stays open. The tube doesn't move. It doesn't swell. It doesn't deflate. No air goes in. Nothing comes out. No breath. No motion. No sign of life. In the background, out of focus, a metal tube. It might be part of the bed. It might be an infusion stand. It's a blurred image, taken in secret. It's Eugenio Pacelli and the final moments of his tragic life. We'll come back to that cursed photo soon and reveal things that have never been told. But for now, let's leave it there, somewhere, waiting for us. At 3:52 a.m. on October 9th, 1958, Eugenio Pacelli dies. The official announcement is made by Gasparini. Eugenio does not leave behind the Catholicized world he had dreamed of, nor the compact, disciplined Christian society he had spent years trying to shape through encyclicals, radio messages, and writings of every kind. Around him, instead, there is an atmosphere of disillusionment, cynicism, even the grotesque. In Rome, someone notes the exact time of his death, 3:52 a.m., and turns it into a lottery bet. Many Romans play the numbers 3 and 52. In the next draw, on Saturday, October 11th, they actually hit. The Pope is dead, and he's made people win the lottery. Eugenio Pacelli dies a saint, or so it seems. Defensor Civitatis, the defender of the city, as he had been known since the time of the bombings and Nazi occupation, when he was the only visible authority left in Rome, passes away surrounded by a silent, entirely sacred aura. In this moment, no one questions him. No one speaks of guilt, or ambiguity, or silence. Those words will come later. Five years later, a German playwright, Rolf Hochhuth, will stage The Deputy, a Christian tragedy. And from there, a different story will begin. The play will accuse Pacelli openly of remaining silent while millions were being deported and killed by the Nazis and fascists, of choosing caution, or worse, complicity, of failing to oppose Hitler when he could and should have done so. With him, in that bed at Castel Gandolfo, a world dies. Even then, no one truly understands it. But Eugenio senses it. His final message is not that of a triumphant pontiff. It is brief, bitter, sharp. It reads like the message of a man in despair, perhaps even a suicide note. The words of someone who, in the end, had lost.
I am fully aware of the shortcomings, failings, and faults committed during such a long pontificate. And in such a grave age, these have made my own insufficiency and unworthiness all the clearer to my mind. I humbly ask forgiveness from all those I may have offended, harmed, or scandalized by word or deed. I beg those to whom it pertains not to concern themselves with erecting any monument to my memory. It will be enough for my poor mortal remains to be laid simply in a sacred place. All the more welcome, the more hidden it is.
He doesn't defend himself. He offers no excuses. He only asks to be forgotten. He doesn't speak like a martyr, only like a tired man. He doesn't want redemption. He wants to disappear. Perhaps, at the moment of death, Eugenio understood something no one at the time would have dared to say aloud. That his time was over. That his imperial vision, rigid, carved like a military liturgy, had emptied itself. It had become a shell, drained of all energy. After Eugenio Pacelli, the papacy would never be the same. It became an institution forced to reinvent itself again and again, caught between the temptation of spectacle and the pull of disappearance, no longer sure whether to show itself or vanish, to proclaim or to remain silent, to be an icon or a shadow. But if Eugenio's fate has run its course, Riccardo Galeazzi-Lisi is only just beginning. 2 tragic acts, 2 unbelievable twists. The tabloid press is about to publish the secret diary of Pius XII's final agony, and with it, a photograph, the cursed image, the forbidden shot. Then Riccardo will lay his hands on the Pope's body. He'll try to embalm it, and end up destroying it, literally. But behind these 2 events, there's much more. More than the official record ever dared to reveal.
You've just listened to the 8th episode of Riccardo, The Man Who Blew Up the Pope, a podcast by Rob Ferraro. Produced in association with Vittoria Ursi.